Hello. In this video, we will be explaining the typical BIM authoring process. Let us start by reviewing what we did in our very first BIM lab. In that lab, we know what we want to model, which becomes our priori knowledge. And then we open a new project using a chosen template, set up project level of controls such as grids and levels. And then we add building components or objects listed in our exercise with their specific dimensions and attributes. So what does the modeling procedure or the modeling process look like in Revit? You probably recall that you are navigating through the category to families till you find the type you want. And then you also set up the options and place the selected type on the canvas. And finally, you can fine-tune the geometry, you can fine-tune the location, and modify your attributes through the properties window. So the whole process looks like it's playing a Lego, a one person standing or sitting in front of a table and picking up pieces and trying to connect them together. But the question is the typical BIM authoring or modeling process a one-person, single-party effort? The apparent answer is no. Now, this is determined by all the different disciplines involved in the design process, as well as the repetitive cyclic designing procedure that we intentionally put in place in order to give us some checkpoints and make necessary changes before we went too far. So in a specific BIM project, your different disciplines design and create different building components or objects. For example, in your schematic design, your architects will first develop an initial architectural model and use this one as the base model for all other disciplines to develop more detailed models. Using this initial architectural model, architectural team, structural team, MEP team, and any other relevant teams, they will step in and improve the initial architectural model and develop a design development model. So this is a figure that illustrates the level 2 design authoring process. A link to the document is provided towards the end or at the lower bottom of this slide. As we mentioned before, we start by developing an initial architectural model, and this job duty is often architects. Once the architect developed the initial architectural model, set up all the levels and the control grids, as well as the rough layout of all the building elements and floor spacing and so on and so forth. The architectural team will come in to design the schematic model. The structural engineer will come in to design the schematic model, and an MEP schematic model will be created as well as other relevant teams and models. So once all the schematic models are complete, it is time to bring them together, merge them together, and review them together to make sure that all these designs they are conflict-free and they meet the requirements. So at the diamond merging point right here, oops, sorry, I have trouble activating my pen. It's right here. So at this point, what we are trying to do here is to see if your model meets the requirements. If your model does, then problem solved, and we will move forward to the next step. If it does not, then we will follow this arrow and to go back and revise all these schematic models. And this revision can be repeated many times till you achieve a model that meets the desired requirements. So let's make our slides clear by removing the mistake I made at the very beginning when activating my pen. So once your model meets the requirements, and the next step is to proceed and get into the next design stage, which is the either the preliminary design or the detailed design, depending on how many design stages that you'd like to have in your design process. So in the next design stage, again, the process is repeated. You can always go back and check and to make sure that your next stage design meets the requirements. And this process can continue on. So essentially what you're looking at here is a cyclic and a repetitive process, right? So what that means is that you start with this very starting point, and then you go through several cycles of the very first stage of repetition until you reach a model that is satisfactory or meet your requirements. And then you move on to the next cycling stage or the next cycling process and move on and repeat that process as you go. Okay, repeat the process as you go. So this repetitive nature has several levels in the hierarchy. All right, so here's the closing exercise. Is BIM authoring a linear, one-directional process? I hope your answer is false. Apparently, BIM authoring is not a linear, one-directional process. It is not linear because we can have many repetitions and cycles embedded in the process. It is not one-directional because we can always go back, make a revision, and move on when we are satisfied.